The
Rồi,
Easter
còn cô
brunch
gái
at
giải thích.
Fairfield Country Club was everything you'd
Tại sao
expect from
con
an
lại bị
Anderson
bận với
family
nhau
gathering.
vậy?
White
Còn cô gái
tablecloths,
giải thích.
fresh lilies in crystal vases, champagne flowing like water, and 40 members of
ủi.
Connecticut's finest pretending we all genuinely enjoyed each other's company. I sat at the children's table, helping my 4-year-old son Lucas color a picture of the Easter bunny. His tongue poked out in concentration as he carefully stayed within the lines. 6-year-old Emma was at the next table over, playing a
We
gentle
need to
game of
finalize
tag
the
with her
terms by the
cousins
end of the
Sophie
week,
and
or the
Grace,
deal is off.
Benjamin and
I
Olivia's
understand the
daughters.
urgency, but
The
rushing
kids'
this will
laughter
only
was the
create more
only
problems
genuine
down the
sound in
line.
the entire room. My husband Charles stood near the bar with his older brother Benjamin, both of them in their standard lawyer meets hedge fund manager uniform, navy blazers, khakis, ties that cost more than most people's weekly groceries. They were discussing some legal case, their voices carrying that particular tone men use when they're comfortable, established, belonging. I watched my mother-in-law Susan fuss over the dessert table, rearranging petit four that didn't need rearranging. Charles's younger sister Victoria sat with her husband Aaron, a high school teacher who always looked slightly uncomfortable at these events, like he was wearing someone else's clothes. I liked Aaron. He was real in a way most of the Anderson family had forgotten how to be. Everything was fine, pleasant even. The kids were behaving beautifully. Lucas hadn't spilled anything. Emma had remembered to say please and thank you to the servers. I'd actually started to relax. That's when Olivia Preston Anderson stood up. My sister-in-law was a vision in white Chanel, her blonde hair pulled into a perfect chignon, makeup applied with surgical precision. She picked up her champagne glass and tapped it with a manicured nail. The sound cut through the conversation like a knife. "Excuse me, everyone, if I could have your attention for just a moment." 40 pairs of eyes turned toward her. Olivia smiled, that particular smile that never quite reached her eyes, and gestured toward me. "Chloe, darling, I think we need to discuss something that's been on everyone's mind." My stomach dropped. I knew that tone. I'd heard it at every family gathering for the past 7 years, that careful, concerned voice that barely masked contempt. "Your children," Olivia continued, her voice carrying perfectly across the room. "They're sweet, truly, but perhaps a bit too energetic for these refined settings." I glanced at Lucas. He was still coloring, hadn't moved from his seat, hadn't made a sound. Emma had stopped playing and was standing perfectly still, sensing the shift in atmosphere the way kids do. "I mean, look around." Olivia swept her arm across the room. "Sophie and Grace understand proper decorum." Her daughters sat frozen in their matching Easter dresses, looking like porcelain dolls. "But you're too." She looked at Emma and Lucas like they were stray dogs that had wandered in off the street. "The constant noise, the running around, it disrupts the civility we've worked so hard to maintain here." The room had gone silent. I could feel everyone watching, waiting to see how I'd react, waiting to see if I'd cause a scene or accept my public humiliation with grace. Behind Olivia's head, I could see the banner we'd hung for today's event. Anderson Family Unity Fund, bringing family together since 2019. That fund. The one I created with my own money. The one I'd poured $467,000 into over 5 years. The one Olivia had taken credit for at every single gathering, telling everyone how she'd negotiated deals and maintained family traditions. "Perhaps it's time to consider leaving them with a babysitter," Olivia said, her smile sharp. "For everyone's comfort. Victoria and Aaron don't bring disruptive children to family events. Maybe we should follow that standard." I felt Charles move beside me. He stood up fast enough that his chair scraped against the floor. "Olivia, that's completely out of line." I touched his arm gently and shook my head. Years of dealing with Olivia had taught me that fighting her directly only made things worse. She wanted a reaction. She wanted me to lose my temper, to prove her point that I was too emotional, too unsuitable for the refined Anderson family. I stood up slowly, smoothing my dress. My voice came out steady, calm, much calmer than I felt. "You know what, Olivia? You're absolutely right." That surprised her. I could see it in the way her smile faltered for just a second. "We won't impose on your perfect gatherings anymore." I turned to my children. "Emma, Lucas, let's pack up. We're going home." "Chloe, that's not necessary." Susan started to protest, her face pale. No, Susan. I kept my voice pleasant as I helped Lucas put his crayons back in the box. Olivia has made the family's position very clear, and since she's obviously the authority on who belongs at these events, I looked directly at Olivia. We'll respect her wishes. Emma came over, confused but obedient. Mommy, did I do something wrong? No, sweetheart. You were perfect. I kissed the top of her head. We're just going home. We won't attend any more family events, I said to the room at large. Consider this our last one. Olivia's smile was victorious. I think that's best for everyone's peace of mind. I gathered our things. Emma's jacket, Lucas's stuffed bunny, the coloring books I'd brought to keep them occupied. As we walked toward the door, I paused for just a moment beneath that banner. Anderson Family Unity Fund. I smiled, a real smile this time, though no one understood why. Benjamin was watching me with an odd expression, something calculating, curious, like he was putting together a puzzle. As we stepped out into the spring sunshine, I heard Olivia's voice carry through the open door. Finally, we can have proper adult conversations again. These events should be for people who understand class. The drive home was silent for the first 5 minutes. Emma and Lucas sat in the back seat of our Tesla, both of them unnaturally quiet. Charles gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. Mommy? Emma's voice was small. Why doesn't Aunt Olivia like us? I had to swallow hard before I could answer. She does, sweetie. She just has different ideas about family gatherings. But I was being quiet, Lucas said. I was just coloring. I know, baby. You did nothing wrong. Charles hit the steering wheel with his palm, not hard, but sharp enough that both kids jumped. We're not actually doing this, he said. We're not letting Olivia ban our kids from family events. I won't subject our children to being treated like they don't belong. My mother will talk to Olivia. Benjamin will. Your mother sat there and said nothing, Charles. Benjamin said nothing. Victoria said nothing. They all let Olivia humiliate us in front of 40 people. The kids love seeing their cousins, and they can see Sophie and Grace at our house, where they're actually welcome. Charles looked at me, and I could see the frustration and confusion in his eyes. Why are you so calm about this? It's like you expected it, like you planned this. I didn't plan to be publicly humiliated, Charles. I just decided I'm not going to fight someone who's determined to see us as problems. This is my family, and I'm your wife. Your children are your family. Where are your priorities? The silence that followed was heavy, uncomfortable. Emma started crying quietly in the back seat. Lucas reached over and held her hand. We'll figure this out, Charles said finally, his voice quieter. But we're not giving up on family. I looked out the window at the Connecticut suburbs rolling past. Perfect lawns, perfect houses, perfect lives. Maybe it's time the family figures out what it really values. Charles glanced at me again, and I could see it in his face, that unsettling feeling that something wasn't right. Normally, I would have been crying or angry or ready to fight, but this calm acceptance, this was different. He just didn't know how different. That evening, after I'd put Emma and Lucas to bed, after I'd reassured them again that they'd done nothing wrong, that Mommy and Daddy still loved them, that everything would be okay, I sat alone in my home office. The room was dark except for the glow of my laptop screen. I logged into an account Charles had never seen, one managed through a complex LLC structure that even forensic accountants would have trouble tracing. The screen displayed Anderson Family Unity Fund, Administrative Portal. My finger hovered over the keyboard. 5 years. $467,000. Countless hours of watching Olivia take credit for my generosity, while making me feel unwelcome at events I was funding. I thought back to how it all started. It was late 2018. Charles and I had been married for 2 years. We were sitting in our old apartment, much smaller than the house we live in now, and Charles was looking through old family photos on his phone. We used to be so close, he said, his voice heavy with nostalgia. Monthly gatherings, everyone together. Now I only see Benjamin on holidays. Victoria's always busy. Mom's alone in that big house. The recession had hit the Anderson family hard. Benjamin's hedge fund had lost 60% of its value. The family manufacturing business, started by Charles's grandfather, had struggled to stay afloat. One by one, family members had tightened their belts. The monthly gatherings at Fairfield Country Club had become sporadic potlucks, then rare, then almost non-existent. What if there was a way to bring everyone back together? I asked. Charles laughed, but there was no humor in it. Those gatherings cost money no one has anymore, Chloe. But I had money. 3 months earlier, I'd sold my AI startup, Quantum Solutions, to a major tech company. Charles knew about the sale. He'd been proud, supportive, excited for our future, but when he asked how much, I'd told him 8 to 10 million. Enough to be comfortable, to pay off our student loans, to stop worrying about money. I hadn't told him the truth, $45 million. After taxes, I'd walked away with $28 million. Why did I lie? That's complicated. When Charles and I first started dating in 2015, I was a senior engineer making $220,000 a year. He'd just graduated from law school, working as an associate for $85,000. For 2 years, I out-earned him by a significant margin, and I watched it eat at him in small ways. I should be taking you to nice restaurants, he'd said once after I'd paid for dinner. Not the other way around. Does it matter who pays? It matters to me. He'd looked away, uncomfortable. I'm the man. I should be able to provide. I'd laughed it off, but I'd seen the look in his eyes, that particular kind of hurt that comes from feeling inadequate. And I'd seen that look before, in my own father's eyes. My father, Richard Mitchell, had left my mother when I was 15. Left her because she'd gotten promoted to VP and started earning more than him. I'd heard them fighting one night, heard him say, I can't be married to a woman who makes me feel like a failure. So when I sold Quantum Solutions for an amount that would change our lives forever, I made a choice. I downplayed it. Let Charles feel proud without feeling overwhelmed. Let him maintain his sense of being a provider while I quietly managed our actual wealth. Was it fair? Probably not. Was it a lie? Definitely. But it kept us happy. It kept us equal, or at least gave us the illusion of equality. And then I saw a way to use some of that money for something good. In early 2019, I met with my financial advisor, Patricia Wong. I want to create an anonymous fund, I told her, to sponsor my husband's family gatherings. No one can know it's from me. Patricia had looked at me over her glasses. How much are we talking? Whatever it takes. 20 to 25,000 per major event, 4 or 5 times a year. That's 80 to 100,000 annually. For how long? As long as they need it. She'd helped me set it up, a maze of LLCs and trusts that would be nearly impossible to trace back to me. Quantum Solutions, LLC, to Mitchell Family Trust, to Anderson Family Unity Fund. We created a story. A grateful business associate of Charles's late grandfather had left money specifically for family unity. The first donation went out in April 2019, $25,000 for Easter brunch. I'll never forget Susan's phone call to the family. I could hear her crying through Charles's phone as she told everyone about the unexpected gift, about someone who cared enough about her late husband's legacy to make sure the family stayed together. Charles had cried too. This is amazing, he'd said, pulling me close. We get to have our family back. And for a while, it was amazing. But then Olivia took over. I have event planning experience, she'd announced at the first meeting. Let me coordinate everything. Over the next 5 years, I watched her transform simple family gatherings into showcases for her taste and social connections. She took credit for negotiating deals with the country club, for maintaining family traditions, for being the glue that held the Andersons together. Meanwhile, she made subtle digs at me. Comments about new money versus old families, criticism of my clothes, my career, my parenting. She excluded me from planning, made me feel like an outsider at events I was secretly funding. And through it all, I smiled and said nothing. Because the fund was anonymous. Because exposing the truth would hurt Charles's pride. Because I'd convinced myself that the family connection was worth it. Until today. until she publicly humiliated my children in front of 40 people. Yeah. I stared at the screen. My email to Patricia was already drafted. Effective immediately, cease all disbursements to Anderson Family Unity Fund. Close the account. Transfer remaining balance to my personal account. My finger hovered over the send button. 5 years. $467,000. Countless memories of Emma and Lucas being told they were too loud, too messy, too much. I clicked send. Let's see what happens when the money runs out, I thought. Maybe they'll remember what family actually means. 'Kay. 2 weeks later, Susan called. "Chloe, dear, the strangest thing happened." Her voice sounded confused, worried. "The country club says our May reservation has been canceled. Something about non-payment." I kept my voice carefully neutral as I made lunch for Emma and Lucas. "Oh, that is strange." I called Olivia and she's beside herself. She says the Unity Fund account is empty, completely empty. Empty? How is that possible? "We don't know. Benjamin is looking into it, trying to trace where the money went. But in the meantime, we had to cancel the Mother's Day brunch." She sighed heavily. "I'm so disappointed. I was looking forward to seeing Emma and Lucas." There it was, the subtle guilt trip. Not intentional, perhaps, but effective. "You're always welcome here, Susan," I said. "The kids would love to see you." "That's sweet, but it's not the same as the whole family together. Olivia spent so much time planning." Olivia's devastated, I thought. She spent my money, planned with my donations, and she's devastated? "I'm sure you'll figure something out," I said aloud. That afternoon, my phone exploded with notifications from the Anderson family WhatsApp group. Olivia: "Everyone, I have terrible news. The Unity Fund account has been completely drained. All upcoming events are canceled until we figure out what happened." Rachel Murphy, Charles's cousin: "Drained? How does a fund just get drained?" Olivia: "We're investigating. Benjamin has hired a forensic accountant." Victoria: "Can't we just do simpler gatherings, potlucks at someone's house?" Olivia: "Victoria, these events are about maintaining our family's dignity and standards. Potlucks in backyards aren't the same." I watched the messages pile up, watched the family fracture in real time over text message. Aaron Wells: "I don't know, Olivia. We used to do backyard barbecues and everyone had fun." Olivia: "That was before we knew better." Rachel: "Before we knew better, or before someone was funding fancy parties?" Olivia: "If we want to maintain the Anderson family legacy, we need proper venues and catering. These things cost money." Rachel: "Your proper venues cost $20,000 per event. That's $4,000 per family. I can't afford that." Victoria: "Neither can we. Aaron's a teacher. We're still paying off student loans." The conversation devolved from there, with Olivia insisting on standards and everyone else pointing out that standards were expensive. Then Benjamin's message appeared, and my heart skipped a beat. Benjamin: "Let's all take a breath. I'm working with a forensic accountant to trace the fund's origins. We'll figure this out." Forensic accountant. He was actually investigating. That evening, Benjamin called me directly. "Chloe, can I ask you something? Did you ever meet my grandfather's business associates?" I forced my voice to stay casual. "No, I never had the chance." "Why?" "The forensic accountant is tracing the Unity Fund. The structure is complicated, multiple LLCs, layered trusts. But there's a pattern." "A pattern?" "The deposits always came right after certain business milestones, tech industry milestones." My mouth went dry. "That's interesting." "Yeah, interesting." There was a long pause. "I'll let you know what we find." After he hung up, I sat staring at my phone. Benjamin was smart, brilliant, actually. It was only a matter of time before he traced the money back to me. The question was, what would happen when he did? Memorial Day weekend arrived with the kind of perfect weather Connecticut specializes in. Warm sunshine, gentle breeze, everything blooming. It should have been the Anderson family's big summer kickoff, traditionally celebrated with a yacht party at the club. Instead, the family WhatsApp group was a war zone. Olivia: "I've secured a yacht for Memorial Day weekend, $18,000 for the day. That's $360 per family. Please confirm attendance and send deposits by Wednesday. Rachel, $360 for one day? Daniel Murphy, we have 3 kids. That's our monthly grocery budget. Olivia, if we want to maintain our family's standards. Victoria, Olivia, most of us can't afford your standards. Why don't we just have a barbecue at someone's house? Olivia, a barbecue? For Memorial Day? Aaron, what's wrong with a barbecue? Olivia, the Anderson family doesn't celebrate national holidays with hot dogs in someone's backyard. Benjamin, Dad used to grill burgers in our backyard every Memorial Day when we were kids. Olivia, that was different. Victoria, how? No response. The yacht party was quietly canceled. Instead, Olivia insisted on hosting at her house, a beautiful colonial in Fairfield with perfectly manicured lawns and interior design that looked like it came straight from a magazine spread. Charles and I didn't attend, obviously, but Victoria filled us in later. It was a disaster, she said, sitting in our kitchen while Emma and Lucas played in the backyard. Olivia was a nervous wreck. Without catering staff, she was trying to do everything herself. She snapped at anyone who tried to help. Sophie spilled lemonade on the patio, and Olivia practically had a meltdown. How was Benjamin? Victoria sighed. Exhausted. He spent the whole time trying to calm her down while wrangling his daughters and apologizing to everyone. I felt a pang of something, not quite guilt, but close. I'd wanted to teach Olivia a lesson about what mattered, but I hadn't considered that Benjamin and his daughters would be collateral damage. The kids asked where you guys were, Victoria added. Sophie specifically asked why Emma and Lucas don't come to family events anymore. What did you tell her? That you were busy. What else could I say? That her mother banned your children? Heh. June brought Father's Day and another canceled event. Olivia had planned a golf tournament at the country club, 18 holes, dinner afterward, the works. Without the Unity Fund, it was impossible. Victoria suggested a public golf course. Olivia refused, calling it degrading to our father's memory. The event simply didn't happen. By late June, something unexpected started occurring. Family members began showing up at our house. It started with Susan. Messy Wednesdays, she called them. She'd arrive mid-afternoon with homemade cookies and spend hours playing with Emma and Lucas, painting, baking, gardening. Things that got dirt under fingernails and paint on clothes. Things Olivia would have never allowed at her carefully curated events. I'd forgotten how much fun this is, Susan said one afternoon, watching Lucas dig for worms in our garden. When the boys were little, before David died, we used to do this all the time. Get messy, laugh, not worry about appearances. Victoria and Aaron became regular visitors too. Victoria would drop by after work, kick off her heels, and play soccer in the backyard with the kids. Aaron helped Lucas build a treehouse, nothing fancy, just scrap wood and rope, but Lucas treated it like a palace. Even Benjamin started coming by, usually without Olivia. He'd bring Sophie and Grace, and the 4 cousins would run wild through our house while the adults sat on the porch drinking beer. This is nice, Benjamin said one evening, watching the kids catch fireflies. Real, the country club events always felt like performances. That's because they were, I said before I could stop myself. He looked at me with those sharp, analytical eyes. You know, I keep thinking about something. That Unity Fund. The timing of the donations was very specific. Almost algorithmic. My heart rate picked up. Oh? Always right after tech sector milestones, quarterly earnings reports, product launches, IPO anniversaries. He took a long drink of his beer. Strange coincidence. Is it? The forensic accountant thinks so. He's very thorough, very persistent. Benjamin's eyes never left my face. He'll figure it out eventually. He always does. It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. Charles noticed the change too. It's weird, he said one night as we got ready for bed. The big events are gone, but the family seems closer? Mom's happier. Victoria calls me just to chat. Even Benjamin texts me about non-work stuff. I said nothing, just continued brushing my hair. Olivia's having a breakdown, though, he continued. She sent a 2,000-word email to the whole family about maintaining dignified traditions. Mom called it a bit much. What did Benjamin say? Nothing publicly, but he sounds tired when we talk, stressed. Charles sat on the edge of the bed. He also asked me something strange yesterday. My hand stilled. What? He asked if you'd ever mentioned your company's financial advisors to him, if you'd ever talked about LLC structures or anonymous charitable giving. The brush slipped from my fingers, clattering on the hardwood floor. Charles picked it up, handed it to me. Why would he ask about that? I have no idea, I lied. Maybe he's just curious about how I structured the sale. But Charles was looking at me with that expression again, like he was seeing something he didn't quite understand. July came, and with it, my world fell apart. It was a Tuesday morning. Charles had already left for work. Emma and Lucas were at their summer day camp. I was in my office working on a consulting project when my phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Mitchell, this is Jamie Torres. I'm a paralegal at Miller & Associates. Your husband's firm? Yes, I know the firm. Is Charles okay? Oh, yes, he's fine. I'm actually calling because we may have made an error. I was pulling example trust documents for a client, and I accidentally included some of your personal filings in the packet. I wanted to give you a heads up in case Mr. Anderson sees them and has questions about... I didn't hear the rest. My vision tunneled. Miller & Associates had filed the Anderson Family Unity Fund paperwork in 2019. If Jamie had pulled those documents, if Charles saw them... Thank you for letting me know, I managed to say. When did this happen? Yesterday afternoon. Again, I'm so sorry for the confusion. I hung up and stared at my phone. Yesterday afternoon, 24 hours. If Charles had seen the documents, he would have said something, wouldn't he? Unless he was processing, investigating, waiting to confront me with irrefutable proof. I spent the day in a haze of anxiety, jumping every time my phone buzzed. But Charles's texts were normal. Asking about dinner plans, sending a funny photo he'd seen online, reminding me about Lucas's dentist appointment. Maybe he hadn't seen it. Maybe Jamie had caught the error before Charles reviewed the documents. Charles came home at his usual time, kissed me hello, played with the kids before dinner. Everything seemed normal. Until after we'd put Emma and Lucas to bed. I was in my office catching up on emails when Charles appeared in the doorway. He was holding a manila folder. We need to talk, he said. His voice was flat, emotionless in a way that made my stomach drop. About what? He walked in, closed the door behind him, placed the folder on my desk. Quantum Solutions LLC, Mitchell Family Trust, Anderson Family Unity Fund. He looked at me with eyes I'd never seen before, cold, distant. Want to explain? My mouth went dry. Charles? 5 years. His voice was controlled, but I could hear the fury underneath. 5 years you've been lying to me. I wasn't lying. He slammed his hand on the desk, making me jump. Don't. I saw the transfers. $467,000, Chloe. I saw every single deposit, April 2019 to April 2024. My family's fancy parties? You paid for them. All of them. I was trying to help, and I saw the TechCrunch article. You know what it said? That Quantum Solutions sold for $40 to $50 million. You told me $8 to $10 million. He leaned forward. How much did you actually get? The moment of truth. No more lies, no more hiding. After taxes, I said quietly. $28 million. Charles actually stumbled backward like I'd physically struck him. 28! Oh, my God! Oh, my God! Let me explain. Explain what? His voice cracked. That you've been lying to my face for 6 years? That every time I worried about Emma's orthodontist bills or saving for retirement or the fucking mortgage, you just let me worry? While you had millions sitting in accounts I didn't even know existed? I was protecting us. From what? From me? You didn't trust me, Chloe. That's what this is about. You didn't trust me with the truth. That's not fair. Isn't it? He was shouting now, and I prayed Emma and Lucas couldn't hear. You made every major financial decision for our family without me. You decided to give away $500,000. You decided to lie about our net worth. You decided to play puppet master with my family. I was trying to bring them together. By lying? By manipulation? He laughed, but there was no humor in it. You sat there at Easter and let Olivia humiliate us. You wanted her to ban our kids. You needed justification to pull the funding. This whole thing was calculated. Charles, that's not how it happened. Then how did it happen, Chloe? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like my brilliant, strategic wife orchestrated an elaborate revenge scheme. And guess what? It worked. Olivia looks like an idiot. The family is scrambling. Everyone's confused and hurt. Congratulations. Tears were streaming down my face. I did it because I love you. Because after the recession, I saw how sad you were that your family was falling apart. So you decided to fix it with money you didn't tell me we had? You decided to be the secret savior? His voice dropped to a whisper, which was somehow worse than the shouting. Do you know how humiliating this is? My wife has been secretly funding my family's parties for 5 years. Everyone's going to know. Benjamin's already figured it out, I can tell. Soon the whole family will know that Charles Anderson's wife had to save everyone because he couldn't. Nobody thinks that. I think it! He grabbed his keys from my desk. I think it, and it's killing me. The woman I married wouldn't keep secrets like this. She wouldn't manipulate people like chess pieces. She wouldn't lie to my face every single day for years. Charles, please. I'm staying at Benjamin's tonight. Maybe longer. I don't know who you are right now. I'm your wife. I'm Emma and Lucas's mother. I'm the same person. No. He was at the door. The woman I married trusted me. This person? He gestured at me. I don't know this person at all. The door closed behind him. Not a slam. That would have been better. Just a soft, final click. I sat there in the dark, listening to his car pull out of the driveway, listening to my marriage crumble around me. Then I heard small footsteps in the hallway. Mommy? Emma stood in the doorway, Lucas behind her. Both of them were crying. Is Daddy leaving us? Emma's voice was so small, so scared. I pulled them into my arms, holding them as tightly as I could. No, baby, Daddy loves you so much. He just needs some time to think. Did we do something bad? Lucas asked. No, sweetheart. Mommy did something bad, but it's going to be okay. I rocked them until they fell asleep in my arms. And then, alone in the dark with my sleeping children, I finally let myself break. 3 days passed. 3 days of Emma asking when Daddy was coming home. 3 days of Lucas sleeping with his father's pillow. 3 days of me going through the motions, making meals, doing laundry, pretending everything was fine. Charles called every night to talk to the kids, but his conversations with me were brief, cold. How are you? Fine. You? Fine. The kids miss you. I miss them too. Click. On the 4th day, Benjamin showed up at my door unannounced. We need to talk, he said. About you and Charles, about the fund, about everything. I let him in. We sat in the living room, the same room where just weeks ago our families had laughed and played together. I've known for 3 years, Benjamin said without preamble. I looked up sharply. Known what? That you were funding the Unity events. That you created the whole fund. The room tilted. 3 years? Summer of 2021. I was analyzing investment patterns for a hedge fund client, specifically looking at how tech entrepreneurs hide assets. I started noticing patterns in the Unity Fund disbursements, the timing, the amounts, the structure, and I recognized the signature. What signature? Yours. I'd seen you use similar LLC structures when you were setting up Quantum Solutions. You're brilliant at financial engineering, Chloe. It's one of the reasons your company sold for so much. I couldn't speak. Benjamin had known for 3 years. Why didn't you tell me? My voice came out as a whisper. Because I'm a coward. He looked away. I watched you bring Emma and Lucas to every event. I watched Olivia criticize them, exclude them, humiliate you, and I watched you smile and take it, never seeking credit for the money you were giving, and I did nothing. You should have told Charles. Should I have? He looked at me again. 3 years ago, if I'd told him you were secretly worth tens of millions, how would he have reacted? Would he have been grateful, or would he have felt diminished? I had no answer because he was right. Charles's pride had always been fragile when it came to money, to providing, to being the man of the house. I didn't tell him because I was protecting my own comfortable position, Benjamin continued. Because if I exposed you, I'd have to confront what my wife was doing, taking credit for generosity she didn't earn, building her social status on someone else's money, excluding the very person who made it all possible. Benjamin, let me finish. I envied you, Chloe. You have a husband who loves you enough that you felt safe being vulnerable with him, even if you didn't realize you were being vulnerable. My wife? He laughed bitterly. My wife uses people, uses money, uses events to network and climb social ladders. Where is Olivia now? At home. And tonight, I'm telling her everything. About you, about the fund, about how her entire identity for the past 5 years has been built on a lie. He stood up. But first, I needed to tell you. Charles is hurt. He's angry, but he still loves you. Give him time. What if time isn't enough? Then you figure it out together, because that's what marriage is, figuring it out when everything's broken. After he left, I sat alone in the silent house and wondered if my marriage could be fixed, or if I'd broken it beyond repair. That evening, Benjamin sat down with Olivia in their pristine living room. We need to talk about the Unity Fund, he said. About Chloe, about the last 5 years. Olivia looked up from her tablet, where she'd been planning a small, intimate family gathering that still somehow required a $5,000 budget. Did the accountant finally trace the money? Yes, the donor was Chloe. Olivia's face went through a cascade of emotions: shock, confusion, disbelief, and finally, red-hot humiliation. That's impossible. The fund came from Dad's business associate. There was no business associate. It was Chloe the entire time. She created the Anderson Family Unity Fund in 2019. She donated $467,000 over 5 years, and at Easter, you banned her children from events she was paying for. Olivia stood up, pacing. She made a fool of me. All those events I planned, all the credit I took, it was her money? Her money? Yes. How was I supposed to know? The fund was anonymous. But you took credit anyway, Benjamin said quietly. You told everyone you were maintaining family traditions, that you negotiated deals, kept us together. You built your entire social identity on events someone else funded. Olivia spun around. Because that's what I do. That's my value in this family. And what about Chloe's value, or Emma's, or Lucas's? They're children. They can't sit still for 5 minutes. They're 7 years old, Olivia. They're supposed to move and laugh and be messy. That's what children do. Not at civilized events. Civilized. Benjamin stood up, his usual calm cracking. You banned your niece and nephew from family gatherings because they weren't quiet enough for your standards. Standards you maintained with money that wasn't even yours. Olivia's face crumpled. This family needed structure, needed standards. After the recession, everyone was falling apart, and Chloe fixed it. Fixed, quietly, anonymously, asking for nothing, while you took all the credit. I didn't know. But you took it anyway. Benjamin's voice rose. And you know what kills me? I knew. For 3 years, I knew the truth, and I said nothing because I didn't want to face what you'd become. Olivia sat down heavily. What I'd become? Someone who values appearances over people, social status over family, the perfect table setting over actual connection. A long silence fell between them. Why do you hate Chloe so much? Benjamin asked finally. From the beginning. Before the money, before any of this. You've treated her like she doesn't belong. Why? Olivia was quiet for so long that Benjamin thought she might not answer. Then, in a voice he'd never heard from her before, small, vulnerable, broken, she said, Because she has everything, and she doesn't even try. What are you talking about? And then Olivia told him something she'd never told anyone. About growing up as Olivia Preston in Greenwich, Connecticut. About how her father had built their life on loans and lies, maintaining the appearance of wealth while drowning in debt. We had the big house, the nice cars, the country club membership, she said. Everyone thought we were one of the established families, but it was all fake. Dad borrowed money to maintain appearances. The house was mortgaged 3 times, the cars were leased. He paid the club dues late every month and charmed his way through. Benjamin listened, stunned. They'd been married for 15 years, and he'd never known. When I was 16, it all collapsed. Dad's business failed, the banks came. They foreclosed on the house, repossessed the cars, canceled the club membership. One day, I was Olivia Preston from Greenwich, and the next, I was Olivia Preston from a 2-bedroom apartment in Bridgeport. Her voice shook. My friends stopped calling. The club banned us. People crossed the street to avoid my mother. She had a nervous breakdown, spent 6 months in a psychiatric hospital. Olivia, I'm so sorry. I learned that appearances are survival. Control is safety. Chaos is dangerous. So I rebuilt myself. I married into a good family. I made sure everything was always perfect because perfect means safe. Perfect means no one can take it away. And then Charles married Chloe. And then Charles married Chloe, Olivia repeated bitterly. This brilliant, wealthy, effortless woman who doesn't play by any rules. Her children are loud and messy, and everyone still adores them. She doesn't have to maintain appearances, and she still wins. She doesn't have to control everything, and people still love her. So you punished her. I was protecting myself. Olivia was crying now. If the family sees that you don't need standards, don't need perfection, don't need me, then what am I? If family is just backyard barbecues and paper plates, then I'm replaceable. Benjamin sat down beside her. You're replaceable as an event planner, Olivia, but you're irreplaceable as family, as a wife, as a mother. You've just been so busy defending your position that you forgot to be present. What if they don't like who I am without all of this? Then maybe it's time to find out who you really are. The 4th of July arrived with typical summer fanfare. Traditionally, the Anderson family would have gathered at the country club for an elaborate gala. Full band, catered dinner, professional fireworks display. This year, Victoria and Aaron hosted in their suburban backyard. The setup was decidedly unglamorous. Folding chairs from Target, a second-hand grill smoking on the patio, paper plates, plastic cups, a couple of coolers full of beer and soda. Kids ran through sprinklers in bathing suits. Adults actually relaxed instead of networking. Susan arrived early with her famous potato salad. Rachel and Daniel Murphy brought hot dogs and hamburgers. Uncle Robert and Aunt Margaret Hayes contributed desserts. Everyone pitched in. Charles didn't come. I'd called to invite him, but he'd declined. It's too soon, he'd said. I'm not ready. So I went alone with Emma and Lucas, trying to pretend my heart wasn't breaking. Aunt Chloe! Sophie and Grace ran up the moment we arrived. Can Emma and Lucas play with us? Of course, sweethearts. The 4 cousins immediately ran off to the sprinkler, shrieking with joy. I watched them, remembering how Olivia used to keep Sophie and Grace in their perfect dresses, never allowing them to get dirty or loud. Benjamin walked over, beer in hand. They look happy. They do. I glanced around. Where's Olivia? Not coming. She's processing a lot right now. Did you tell her? Everything. He took a long drink. It didn't go well, but it was necessary. Victoria called everyone to gather for dinner. As we sat down at mismatched tables, passing plates of food family style, I felt tears prick my eyes. This messy, imperfect, beautiful gathering was what I'd wanted all along. Real connection, not performance. But Charles wasn't here to see it. After dinner, as the sun set and we waited for fireworks, Victoria sat down beside me. You okay? I wiped my eyes. I achieved what I wanted, real family connection. But I lost Charles in the process. Give him time, he'll come around. What if he doesn't? Then you figure out your next move. But Chloe, what you did, creating that fund, supporting this family for years, That came from love. Charles will see that eventually. At 9 o'clock, Aaron set up the fireworks display. Nothing professional, just sparklers and bottle rockets from the grocery store. The kids sprawled on blankets pointing at the sky. My phone buzzed. Text from Charles. "How's the party?" I took a photo of Emma and Lucas laughing with their cousins and sent it. "Good, you should be here." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "I'm not ready yet. When you are, we'll be here." The fireworks lit up the sky, and for a moment, surrounded by family and laughter and light, I let myself hope that maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. 1 week after the 4th of July, I received an email that stopped my heart. From Patterson and Associates Legal Counsel. Subject: Urgent. Quantum Solutions, Patent Litigation. Date: July 11th, 2024. Dear Ms. Mitchell, Datamind Corp., the company that acquired Quantum Solutions, is being sued for patent infringement related to core AI technology developed under your tenure. As the named inventor on all patents in question, you are being named as a co-defendant. Estimated legal fees: $2.3 million. Potential damages if ruling goes against us: $15 to $20 million. We need to discuss strategy immediately. I read it 3 times. My hands were shaking so badly I had to put down my phone. $20 million. I could lose everything. I pulled up my financial spreadsheet with trembling fingers. Current net worth: $22.7 million if I lose the lawsuit. Legal fees: $2.5 million. Damages: $17.5 million, mid-range. Total exposure: $20 million. Remaining: $2.7 million. We'd have to sell the house, empty the kids' college funds. Everything Charles and I had built, gone. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent 5 years teaching my family that money doesn't matter, that what matters is connection and presence, not country clubs and catered events. Now I was about to learn that lesson the hard way. I sat there in my office, staring at numbers that suddenly felt meaningless, and realized I had to tell Charles. We were barely speaking, our marriage hanging by a thread, but he deserved to know. But I couldn't make myself pick up the phone. What would I say? "Remember how angry you are about me lying about money? Well, we're about to lose it all anyway. Ta-ta." The decision was taken out of my hands the next day when Susan stopped by for our usual Wednesday afternoon with the kids. She walked into my office to ask where I kept the snacks and saw the legal documents spread across my desk. "Honey, what is this?" She picked up the letter, her face going pale as she read. "You're being sued? For $20 million? I tried to gather the papers. "It's nothing, Susan, just a legal complication. This says you could lose everything. The house, your savings." She looked at me with sudden understanding. "Does Charles know?" I shook my head, and suddenly I was crying. Not quiet tears, but ugly, gasping sobs. "I'm being sued for technology I developed 6 years ago. I could lose everything. And Charles hates me. We're barely speaking. How do I tell him we might lose it all when he's already furious about me lying about having it?" Susan sat down and pulled me into her arms. "Oh, sweetheart, you have to tell him. You have to tell all of us." "I can't ask for help. Not after everything." "You're not asking. We're offering. That's what family does." That evening, Susan made phone calls. By 7 o'clock, she'd assembled the entire Anderson family at her house for an emergency meeting. I walked in to find everyone there. Charles, who wouldn't look at me, Benjamin and Olivia, sitting on opposite ends of the couch, Victoria and Aaron, Rachel and Daniel Murphy, Uncle Robert and Aunt Margaret Hayes. "Everyone's here," Susan said, standing at the front of her living room, "because this family has been fractured for too long. Tonight, we're telling the truth, all of it. No more secrets, no more pride." She looked around the room. "And then we're deciding what kind of family we want to be." Benjamin stood first. "I've known for 3 years that Chloe was our anonymous donor. I discovered it through financial analysis. And I said nothing." Gasps echoed around the room. I said nothing because I was protecting my wife's ego and my own cowardice. I watched Olivia take credit for Chloe's generosity. I watched her exclude Emma and Lucas from events Chloe was funding, and I did nothing. He looked at me. I'm sorry. Olivia stood next, her hands shaking. I've treated Chloe terribly since she married into this family. I took credit for events she funded. I banned her children from gatherings. I made her feel unwelcome. Her voice broke. I did it because I was terrified. I grew up watching my family lose everything. Our house, our status, our dignity. When my father's business failed, we went from Greenwich to a 2-bedroom apartment in Bridgeport overnight. My mother had a breakdown. I learned that control equals survival. She looked at me directly. When Chloe showed up so effortlessly successful, I saw a threat instead of family. I'm deeply, profoundly sorry. Victoria spoke next. I sat at Easter and said nothing while Olivia humiliated you. That makes me complicit. I'm sorry, Chloe. Rachel added, We all accepted fancy events without questioning where the money came from. We all took without asking. Then it was my turn. I stood on shaking legs. I started the fund because Charles's family was falling apart after the recession. I wanted to help, but I did it anonymously because I lied to my husband about our money. I looked at Charles. I told you we had 8 to 10 million from the sale. The truth is 28 million. I lied for 6 years because I was afraid you'd feel inadequate, because my own father left my mother when she earned more than him, because I thought I was protecting us, but I was wrong. My voice shook. And when Olivia humiliated our children, I used the money as a weapon. I turned family into a lesson I could teach. I manipulated everyone. Then I told them about the lawsuit. I'm being sued for patent infringement. Legal fees will be $2 to $3 million. If we lose, damages could be 15 to 20 million. I might lose everything. The house, the savings, the kids' college funds. The room went silent. I spent 5 years teaching you all that money doesn't matter for family, I said, tears streaming down my face. Now I'm about to learn that lesson myself. Charles stood slowly. For a moment, I thought he was leaving. Instead, he walked toward me. I've been angry at you for 2 weeks, he said, furious about the lies, the secrets, the manipulation. He stopped in front of me. But I've also been sitting in Benjamin's guest room thinking about the man I've been, the comments I made early in our relationship about being the provider, about earning more, about being the man of the house. I created an environment where my brilliant wife felt she had to hide her success to make me comfortable. His voice cracked. You were wrong to lie. But I was wrong to be the kind of husband you felt you had to lie to. He took my hands. I don't care about the money. I don't care if we lose the house. I care about us, about Emma and Lucas, about being true partners finally without secrets. Charles, I love you, Chloe, and I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to hide. Uncle Robert stood up. I'm a retired attorney. Let me look at this lawsuit. Pro bono. Rachel. I work in IP law. I know people who specialize in patent litigation. Victoria. If you need to sell the house, move in with us. Benjamin. The family will help with legal costs. And then Olivia spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I have $50,000 in savings. Money I saved from events you funded. It's yours if you need it. I stared at her. Olivia, I can't. You gave our family $467,000 asking for nothing. Let me give you $50,000 and ask for forgiveness. Susan looked around the room, tears in her eyes. This family was built by people who had nothing but each other. We'll survive this lawsuit because that's what real family does. The next 6 months were a blur of legal meetings, negotiations, and slow healing. Uncle Robert and Rachel's colleague, a top IP attorney named Martin Shaw, took my case at a reduced rate. The family contributed to a legal defense fund. Benjamin gave $25,000, Victoria and Aaron $5,000, Olivia her promised $50,000, and various cousins chipped in another $15,000. Charles moved back home. We started couples therapy with Dr. Ellen Rodriguez, working through years of unspoken resentments and misaligned expectations. We opened joint financial accounts, shared passwords, made decisions together. It was hard. There were setbacks, arguments, nights when one of us slept on the couch. But we kept showing up, kept trying. Olivia started therapy too, working through her childhood trauma and her need for control. I watched her slowly learn to let go, to let Sophie and Grace get messy, to attend casual family gatherings without criticism, to build genuine relationships instead of performing perfection. The family gatherings continued at rotating houses. Potlucks, paper plates, kids running wild. Real connection instead of performance. In December, we received settlement papers. Datamind offered $4 million to resolve the case. After legal fees, I'd net $2 million, but the alternative was risking a $20 million judgment at trial. Charles and I signed together, his hand covering mine. Our final net worth, approximately $20 million. Still comfortable, but no longer wealthy enough to fund elaborate family events or avoid financial consequences. "Do you regret it?" Charles asked that night. "All the money you gave away, and now this?" I thought about it. No. I bought something worth more than money. I bought us figuring out how to be real partners. I bought this family learning what actually matters. Thanksgiving arrived with perfect autumn weather. Susan hosted at her modest house, and 35 family members crowded in. A beautiful chaos of card tables mixed with dining chairs, mismatched dishes, and love. Emma and Lucas ran through the house with Sophie and Grace, their laughter filling every room. Olivia watched them, and I saw her face do something it had never done before: relax. When Sophie nearly knocked over a vase, Olivia took a breath and smiled. "Having fun, sweetheart?" Sophie looked shocked, then grinned and kept running. Benjamin squeezed his wife's hand. "I'm proud of you." In the kitchen, Charles and I carved the turkey together. "Do you miss it?" he asked. "The money?" "Sometimes. But then I see this." I gestured to the living room full of family. "And I remember what I actually bought. Not events. This. Real connection." He kissed me. "I love you, even when you're deviously clever." "I love you, even when you're stubborn." Before dinner, Susan stood and tapped her wine glass. "This year tested us," she said. "We learned hard truths about each other and ourselves. We learned that money doesn't hold family together. We learned that real love means showing up, messy, honest, and imperfect." She raised her glass. "To the Anderson family. Not the perfect kind, not the wealthy kind, but the real kind." "To family," everyone echoed. Dinner was chaos. Kids spilling, adults laughing, conversation flowing naturally instead of forced networking. At one point, Emma leaned over and whispered to Lucas, "I like this family better now." "Me too," he whispered back. I caught Charles's eye across the table. He smiled, a real smile, open and warm and without shadows. Later that night, after we'd put exhausted, happy children to bed, Charles and I sat on our back porch. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "About how I spent 5 years and $500,000 trying to buy family connection. But it turns out you can't buy what matters. You can only create space for it." "And sometimes," Charles added, pulling me close, "the best thing you can do for a space that's become toxic is to stop paying rent and build something real." Inside, through the window, I could see photos on our mantel. Emma and Lucas at the 4th of July party, covered in grass stains and happiness. The whole family at Thanksgiving, squeezed together and genuinely smiling. Sophie and Grace and Emma building that ridiculous treehouse with Aaron. Not perfect, not polished, real. I'd learned the hard way that money can't buy belonging, but it can teach you what belonging actually means. And that lesson was worth every penny. The Anderson family gatherings continued, simpler now, but somehow bigger in all the ways that mattered. Potlucks replaced caterers. Backyards replaced country clubs. Paper plates replaced fine china. And children, all children, were always, always welcome. Because that's what family means. Not perfection or performance or proper behavior. Just showing up, chaos and all, and knowing you belong.